Today, we're very lucky to have Denise Dwight Smith speak to us. Denise is the Assistant Vice President for Alumni and Career Services at the University of Richmond. She's been with us since 2016, after she came from Old Dominion University, as well as UNC Charlotte. I read over Denise's resume and all of her criteria, and I can tell you she is a good person to be in this position. She's got a lot of experience, a lot of accolades, and the proof is in the pudding. The university has been ranked as high as #2 just last year for our Office of Career Services. And most recently, #6 in the country. That's pretty darn good. And we've been in the top 8 for the past 6 years. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to Denise.
Thank you, Rhonda. And I really appreciate this opportunity. I love First Fridays, though I have to confess, I really wish I could be with each of you, and I wish we could be eating breakfast too. Miss those breakfasts in D Hall. So it's great to see everybody. I'm just going to give you a little glimpse into what our experience has been like since March, and hope you have some questions as well. So I'm going to share some slides with you, and the information will be covered on what our teams are doing, what support we've provided during this pandemic time, how our constituents or those we serve have been responding, and then just a little snippet on maybe how you might engage or help out. For those of you that are maybe not as familiar with our teams, it includes alumni relations, employer relations, those that work with the organizations that provide internships and jobs for our students, and alumni who provide experience and career information, and also our critical career advising team that really guides students all through the 4 years. And to put this in perspective, here's what we're all about. The mission for these 3 teams working together is to educate and connect students and alumni for meaningful careers, for enriched lives, and of course, to have long-term Spider success and legacy. We've got 4 key goals in addition to stewardship, certainly of our resources, that are part of our 2017-22 strategic plan. And everything that we do really focuses around these goals. One being creating a strong foundation through early career service engagement. That means reaching out to students even before they come on campus their first year. A second component that we really believe in is providing experiential learning opportunities for students that are high impact, high quality, and also accessible to all students. Third, of course, really intentionally and strategically expanding and adding partnerships with organizations and recruiters that hire our students. And as you can imagine, we do not have the numbers of students it's like a UVA or Virginia Tech would have to offer some major corporations. So a lot of our success really focuses on partnerships and relationships we have with those organizations through our alumni and through our parents and people such as you, which we really appreciate. And that's one of the ways that we generate broader spectrum of both internship and job opportunities for students. And of course, one of the things that this is all about, in addition to First Fridays, is learning to grow and enhance engagement opportunities and connecting alumni to students to help them for career education, but also to connect them with one another and to connect them with the university. So I will say that our model is fairly unique. Among our peers, there's about 12 schools that are set up the way we are in the nation, and it works perfectly for us to have this strong collaboration with alumni relations, employee relations, and career development. So enter COVID from February and March. I'm not sharing my screen. Can you guys not see the screen?
Nope, we don't see the screen right now, Denise. If you just want to click share screen again, it should pop up.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, we are. Yep, perfect.
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. So there, if you want to get a quick glimmer of the goals that I talked to you about. So All right, and of course, the lovely picture of COVID. So if we can remember back, everybody was trying to understand and learn what this was and what the ramifications were. And we were certainly looking at this as an institution, but also keep in mind that every organization that we work was also going through the same difficulties and challenges. And, you know, are we even going to recruit college students? What does this mean for our recruiting program? Can we even offer an internship? Nonprofits are certainly very worried about where their income stream is going to come from, what's going to be happening. So there's just so much unknown out there. And I have to say that I was just over the moon in terms of the response of our 3 teams. Because if you really think about it in terms of what we do, our bread and butter is really in-person relationships and programming, whether it's for teaching students how to write resumes and how to do internships, how to make career decisions, or on the alumni side, our office is responsible for setting up all the wonderful president's receptions around the country and regional receptions. So we really rely on in-person. So this was quite a shift. And quickly, all team members looked at, all right, how do we do this? What are the tools that we need? And found out that even the capabilities that the university had in using Zoom, we went beyond. We were from the first offices that used this webinar format. And then on the career side, we realized that there were some limitations in terms of how we could utilize the format to bring alumni panels in, to network with students, to break down some more team sessions. We just went out there and researched 2 other software platforms that were really critical, and this was way beyond what other institutions were doing. So very quickly pivoted for alumni relations into daily alumni programming, and went out and got some wonderful cadre of volunteers that offered their talents. I'll share a little bit more about that later. And on the career side, quickly responded to how can we do our same type of education with students starting early and do it in a virtual format. And a little perspective on how many students typically do engage. Over 80% annually use the office. That's every class every year. And almost all students, except for 3, I think last year, a class of 2020, have used career services. Everything's voluntary, nothing's required. Students are very satisfied with their services in terms of the career advising and the programs. And as Rhonda mentioned, we're really proud of the Princeton review results because they are really based on student feedback. And then alumni engagement, again, we were well on our way to exceed our goals this year. And if you look at the fiscal year 19, I mean, we had over 14,000 alumni engagements, 430 alumni volunteers, and we had over 1,100 alumni that assisted our students in career education. So we were going into this pretty strong. And then we had to look at, okay, of all the programs that we offer in terms of career development, how do we do this? How do we respond? What do we already have in place? Well, it is a very forward-thinking group. And in terms of tailoring one-on-one career advising, we already had a system set up where students could set up appointments remotely. So they could actually schedule remotely. They could reach out to their career advisors remotely. They had already been requesting some of them on FaceTime, or for those of us that use Android, maybe Marco Polo, or some of those other opportunities. But it was pretty seamless to be able to switch that virtually. The career education programs took a lot more thought. How are we going to take our in-person workshops? How are we going to take our content sessions that we had in the classroom? Which ones could we re-record? How are we going to shift those? And very quickly, we started putting those together in virtual format, many of which are actually recorded and put in the platform that the students use for classes, which is Blackboard. Same thing with career assessment and tools. We're able to do online with students. And again, the resume, interview prep, graduate school search, all those are content sessions that we provided, in addition to really ramping up the online tools and resources that students could access. Job postings, interview opportunities. Again, we've always had 24/7 access for students online, so that was pretty easy. The most complex piece, I think, of all this in reality was trying to figure out what the employers were doing. And what, I guess the two big things I think about is what are employers doing and what will keep alumni engaged and what will keep students engaged. Those are the biggest questions, I think, at the forefront for all of us as we went along planning, and as they say, building the boat as we're out in the water. The other thing that was happening at this point in time, some of you may be familiar with the wonderful program that we offer, the UR Summer Fellowships, that we offer for students, or known as the Rich and Guarantee, where the students have up to $4,000 that they can apply for an internship in the summer. This was about the time that we do all the information sessions and logistics and ramping up for these opportunities. And students were panicking, organizations were panicking. How are we going to do this? Can we even offer it? And it was amazing that all 8 of the program managers got together and looked at, all right, how can we make this be possible for our students? Because some students were reaching out and their internships were falling through because of the organization said, we can't do this. You know, if we can't do it in person, we can't do this, and it's just not safe. Well, over a period of time, we actually were able to realize some not only research and lab opportunities, but also opportunities for students in their hometown areas, and then what they could do virtually. And you can just see the array of organizations, and of course there's a lot more that they worked with. What's amazing on this one is the 401 sites compares to 588 last year. So many of these opportunities, they still were able to reformat in terms of a virtual offering. Employer relations just continue to expand the outreach they already do with alums, but we're even much more intentional about asking for internship leads, for job leads, for maybe you'd be willing to take a student on or set up an internship project virtually in the summer. Just a lot of work in that regard, and full array of virtual services that were offered in recruiting. Again, I'd mentioned we researched the best virtual platforms we could use for our career fairs and our extensive networking programs. And then hopefully many of you have had the opportunity to see the state-of-the-art interview rooms in the Quealy Center, the Quisenberry Employer Suite. And again, we were ahead on the curve on this because we had some facilities that students could go in on their own and use, and it was nice and quiet. Because if you can imagine, across campus, they didn't, those who were staying on campus really didn't have that many places to do interviews, and we were not there having, obviously, in-person interviews because we couldn't have any external people on campus. So it was all about what can we do to provide a rational interview environment for students. And so we set up the capability for them to use those suites. And then partnerships became essential for us. Lighthouse Lab is an opportunity for students that were interested, especially in entrepreneurial opportunities. Capital CoLab is a program that we've been working diligently with a lot of corporations and similar schools from Richmond up through Baltimore on internship and job leads, especially in the digital environment. Parker Dewey is an organization that cultivates mini projects that we're partnering with them so students can access those. And a new program that's pretty exciting that Chamber RVA has is now called RVA Now. And the purpose is to really educate students more on how wonderful Richmond is. And rather than just immediately looking at New York, Boston, Washington, all these other great places, when they graduate, when they do have in-person opportunities, really consider, consider Richmond, and they've been doing some wonderful programs in collaboration with us and other schools. So those have all been working well. So what has been the pandemic overall in terms of recruiting and hiring for students? Well, we know that all recruiting activities, should organizations select to do them, have been virtual. At first, we didn't know. There was a big question of, well, what about locals, organizations, or what about those in Washington? Well, we know we certainly can't fly students to New York. So we really had to work that out over time until everybody really just settled on they had to do virtual. And the other thing, of course, that you would all realize is it hit some industries a lot more than others. And certainly the hardest hit that we saw were the fashion, retail, consulting, travel, and entertainment industries, and some nonprofits. But the figure that really amazes me in all of this and hearing about the economy is that 75% of the organizations that recruited our students during the fall have repeated and come back, and they still sustain that recruiting relationship. And if you remove some of the non-pandemic causes, like some organizations merge, a few just kind of change what they're doing totally in terms of recruiting activities, had nothing to do with the relationship with us. Actually, 90% of those we had relationships with in the past continued to hire and be connected to our students. And the decline was also mitigated, but even new relationships that we were able to cultivate. And here's some of the examples in consulting, banking. And for those of you who have pets, you might recognize the Chewy name. It's exciting to me that they're providing some opportunities for students as well. Alumni engagement, as I mentioned, has just been absolutely phenomenal, because what do you do when most of your engagement has been in person and now everything is virtual? Well, this team wrapped up with some very, very creative things, and alumni responded as well. So to date, we have over 190 of the virtual programs, and 200 alumni and others that have volunteered to share a talent, whether it be in health and wellness, whether they were demonstrating an area of expertise, providing something recreational, maybe even industry panels, and also athletic in nature. They were quite a wide variety, and they're still going on, and they've engaged over 2,600 alumni. And this is the other thing we just are so proud of, is 788 alumni that have not engaged with the university at all in the last 10 years have tuned into these. And by the way, if you haven't had a chance to really take a look at some of them, there is a whole bank of them that you can access. And of course, alumni were really involved in outreach. 2 examples are sending sentiments of support to our 2020 class of seniors that were really particularly affected, and our Red Spider Society of student leaders that have been doing outreach also to the class of 2020. So with that, Megan, if you could queue up for those people who haven't gotten a snippet of the alumni programs, we could take a quick look at those.
Yes, I will do that right now.
So we have workouts. And there you go, quick snippet. And of course, the bottom line is that our spiders have really supported one another and also students. And these are examples of some of the panels, such as the current state of recruiting, what's happening in the financial market, particular company a lot of people have an interest in, what's happening with Vineyard Vines. And the one that I thought was very valuable is we reached out to 2008, 2009 graduates to talk about what was it like, to do a search during a recession, and they were happy to provide advice to students. The programming also was really geared to how do you find jobs, in the COVID era? How do you make the connections? How do you do virtual interviews? This was a whole new thing for our students as well. And as I mentioned, we increased online resources and recorded content and much more targeted email, even specifically to the class of 2020. So last thing I really wanted to share with you is how do the constituents respond? Well, I reached out early to our peer schools, of which I think about 30, and had quite a few, over 20, that have said, yes, let's connect. And we have 4 different meetings. So this includes, your Colgate's, Colorado College, UVA, William and Mary, a lot of them, but Notre Dame, and to kind of talk about what they're doing and what their concerns are. And I found again that we were ahead of the curve on a lot of cases, especially in what we were looking at with software, and especially what we were doing in the alumni programming region. Employers have been so responsive and just really appreciative of how in some cases we've really helped them to think through programming and how they could connect with students, and we've made it easier for them. One of the kind of downsides of some of this is that a lot of employers now have switched to doing one information session rather than going around to all the schools. They're doing one virtually and inviting all the schools. So we we announce it, but we aren't as close to knowing which one of our students participate, but they're still getting the great opportunities. And we've also been collaborating across campus with the deans and the schools running programs, and with many offices as well, helping them run programs and connect with students and alums. And here's a student quote. I just wanted to reach out to thank you so much for connecting me in the spring with this alum. We've been in communication a lot this summer and are planning on working together this year. It was such an amazing connection, even though we didn't get to go to the Olympics. So I just wanted to reach out and thank you because we really clicked and may even open up an opportunity in the future. The student actually had an internship lined up with the Olympics that fell through, and so we connected her with alum who could help her in the next section. And those are the things we just do every day. And here's the team. Yes, we're living on Zoom right now, unfortunately, though we were going into the office on the career side. And once a day, once a week, we'd have different people that would rotate going in and covering in case we had students or parents or somebody that was stopping by. So we were not fully staffed, but we did have our offices open. And lastly, let me just share. We know there's a question came in, and if you have any ideas on leads or internships or jobs or would like to share it with us, you can go to the Hire Spiders at richmond.edu or feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. So Megan, with that, are there any other questions or things you would like me to share?
We haven't had any questions come in. Again, I know I threw it in the chat, but I want to reiterate, if anyone does have any final questions for Denise after her presentation, you can put those in the Q&A function. We can wait a couple seconds, and otherwise I think we could have Rhonda wrap it up. Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you so much, Denise. I know we've certainly learned a lot and appreciate the insight into your team's work and the service that both the alumni office and the career services offices provide to our students and alumni. It's really incredible, and you've earned the accolades that you've received. So thank you. And thank you to all that joined us today. First Friday webinars will resume next semester in February. So please remember to check out our alumni Facebook, Instagram accounts, and the alumni website for additional information about other exciting virtual events. We're taking the month of January off, so we want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season, and most importantly, go Spiders.